friends, welcome back. We're here today with another Leaf Literature. As you know, last month I reviewed The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery, and this month we read The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating by Elizabeth Tova Bailey. So let's jump right into it. So first I have to say that this was a very short read. I'm not surprised. I mean, I saw whenever I got it in the store that this would be a very simple one. First off, if you missed the brief summary of this book, go check out our video from last month where I read what we would be reading for this month. And similarly, at the end of this video, if you want to know what we will be reading next, stay tuned for the end where I will announce that and read the brief summary as well. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering, what score did I give this? What was my 5-star rating? And I would say I give it a 3. And I give it a 3 in a different way than I gave The Soul of an Octopus a 3. And that is primarily not because it eluded my expectations in any way, in any strong way that The Soul of an Octopus did. I had a lot higher expectations for The Soul of an Octopus. I knew it would be very niche. I knew it would be for a very specific type of person. And this one also, while it was enjoyable, it was meant to be kind of at a slower pace, kind of like the Snail. That being said, it wasn't very exciting, and the author knew that. Whereas The Soul of an Octopus, I felt like the author wanted it to be exciting and wanted us to care about it just as much as they did. However, I think there's a little bit stronger of a message with hers than there was with The Soul of an Octopus. And another reason I gave this a 3 is I think it's just a little bit harder, again, to tell stories from your own personal experience that are very much, you had to be there. You had to live it. You had to kind of go through similar things to get to that point. I think that Elizabeth Tova Bailey knew that her experience was very much her own in this, and she really wanted to share it in a way that maybe she knew not everyone would get, but she wanted us to know about it, if that makes sense. Elizabeth Tova Bailey's experience with this snail is very personal. She was going through a very hard time in her life, and this snail, in a way, helped change or get her through this hard time. With The Sound of a Wild Snail, I feel like I came out of it really reflecting on the beauty of the small things in nature, in the wild. And it also was great to see how her perspective of something shifted throughout the time that she got to know it. Something as simple and small as a snail, how that could have effect on her life the way that it did. It was touching, and it was cute, and it was sweet, and at times it was funny. I'm going to read you a sentence that I marked at the very beginning of the book. It says, "The snail was awake. It made its way down the side of the pot and investigated the offering with great interest, and then began to eat one of the blossoms. A petal started to disappear at a barely discernible rate. I listened carefully. I could hear it eating. The sound was of someone very small, munching celery continuously. I watched, transfixed, as over the course of an hour the snail meticulously ate an entire purple petal for dinner." When you read this, you kind of know that this is like the turning point of what really starts the story and what really begins her relationship with the snail. And I love this personally because a fun fact about me is I love watching animals eat. I love hearing animals eat. Not humans, but, you know, like little critters. It's like one of those things that just like really scratches my brain in just the right way. I feel like I could watch and listen to animals eat all day. And her description of it sounding like a small person eating celery was just like perfect. It was cute. It was wholesome. And again, seeing it from somebody who seemingly didn't seem to have interest in snails before, it's just very nice. And so she watches the snail day by day, and you know, I'm not going to tell you all of the little revelations and all of the things that she learns about it, but I just find it like very much like a little growth moment. You hear about her and you see how she grows in mindset about these creatures, in mindset about her own situation. And I really think you can use it as an opportunity to reflect on your own life. And what I would say the message here is more just about slowing down, learning to take it at a snail's pace sometimes. Life moves quickly, and sometimes you can feel like you're missing out on a lot. There's a lot of things you miss by trying to catch up with everybody. Take time to reflect on your life and the things around you, and really find the beauty and the blessings and even the smallest things. And really, as cliche as it sounds, sometimes when you move that fast, you forget to stop and watch the sunrise. And that's just kind of my takeaway from it. Let me know what you guys think too. One of my bigger complaints about it is that, I say complaints, really I shouldn't complain about this, but the story did have a lot of fact dumping and references, and I will say this time they were more well placed than they were in the last book. Sorry, I keep comparing it to that, but they really reminded me of each other in a lot of ways. And that was one of them, is that I felt like it had a lot of facts, and I loved that, but it was kind of just a lot in one chunk of the story that it's like midway through. It's like you're really interested in the beginning, then midway through there's this chunk of information dump that just, it's not fully misplaced, but it's just so close together that it can be a bit of a drag. It can come off a little bit boring. And then I'm just waiting for the enlightenment moment, the moment at the end when it all comes together and we get to learn why this was important to her. And that's really all I wanted to know. See, it's strange. Let's put it this way. In The Soul of an Octopus, in that book, I wanted all the facts, and I wanted the fact dumping, and I got that. But I got also more parts of her life than I felt like I needed to know. Where in this one, I wanted to know a little bit more about her life, and wanted to know more about her experience with this snail and just her adoration for this snail. And I got that. But I actually didn't care whether that came with the facts, with a lot of interesting things about the snails. I would have been fine if this had just solely been from the perspective of somebody who knew nothing about them and just grew to appreciate them, because sometimes that's very nice too, to watch someone who doesn't know anything about animals, who never cared about them before, even something as simple as a snail, and then to grow to love them. That to me is a good story. And I just wanted to hear about all of that and her perspective about all of that. And I did get that, but the chunk in the beginning just became kind of slow for me. Overall, though, I would say I did enjoy this book. And overall, I would say it still met most of my expectations. I knew what I was getting into for the most part. There were some things that, as I said, could have been emphasized a little bit more. But this is about what I expected. I didn't expect anything life-changing out of this one or revolutionary. I knew it would be a little bit quirky and a little bit niche and even probably a little bit slow, but I got what I expected. So I guess the next question is, would I recommend this book? And after the last review, I've been thinking about it, and it's really hard to say, what does that mean? Because most of the time I feel like a lot of these books we will be reading in the Leaf Literature Club are kind of very specific to a very specific group of people. And each time I probably will say the same thing, is that yes, but for a very specific person, for a very specific reason. I will say, with The Soul of an Octopus, I do think that caters to a lot wider audience than The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. And so for that, I would say, yes, I would recommend this. It's for a very specific person. I don't think a lot of people like snails. I think people think they're kind of weird. And I know that there are people out there that enjoy that. I've seen it. I know they exist. But if you're asking me, do I recommend it to most people? No. Most of the time I probably will say this is very specific. I'm hoping we will find more books in this club that apply to more people. But then again, maybe that's not really the goal here. That's not really the goal here. The goal is that I personally am interested in this topic, and I want to share it with you all and hopefully get more people interested in it that may not realize what there is to offer in the wildlife book realm. So I know this review is a little bit short. I guess I just don't have a ton to say about it. It's really hard to say anything without spoiling it. I will say what you read on the summary, I think, is kind of what you get. How deep you think that goes is up to your own personal perspective of how you took that summary. But I feel like it told me what was to come, and I got out of that what I got. And I have to say, I love snails. I love them. I personally want my own pet snail. I actually wanted a giant African snail until I found out that they're practically banned in the US because the USDA deems them an invasive species, and I can't blame them. But have you seen them? They're cute. Have you seen snails eat? One of my favorite pastimes is watching videos online of snails eating. I don't know if you've seen that person on TikTok that likes to put their line of snails out with their like powder food on top of something else and just film them eating. That's one of my favorite things to watch. And I think by that person sharing those videos, a lot of people have found out they also enjoy watching that. So if you are a fellow person who likes to watch snails eat, maybe you would like this book. But I think snails are so cute. And if anything, I will say this book made me really want snails even more. For almost all the same reasons that she enjoyed watching them, I would love to have one by my bedside. I would not mind having one right here on my desk for when I stream. Right here in a little terrarium, just getting to watch it every day. I love that. And if I could get a giant African snail, you bet I would. You bet I would. That said, if you are a fellow snail lover and you own any snails, drop any tips. Drop any recommendations of snails I could get that are not giant African snails but are very close to it and are legal in the US, please. Now before we move on to the cover art, I want to share one fun fact that I learned about snails. I've decided that it's really hard to explain all the cool things I learned about these animals in these books without spoiling the fun experience for you. But I will tell you one thing each video that I learned about the species that was talked about and share that with you. So what I learned about snails is that they have thousands of teeth. I feel like I may have known this at one point in time and had forgotten. It was really interesting. I mean, it makes sense. Alright guys, that's really all I have for you today. Short and sweet. I hope you like the book. If you haven't read it and want to read it, you should. Try something new. And let me know in the comments what you thought if you have read this before. Stay tuned though, because I do want you to see the cover art that this book inspired me to make. And at the end, I will announce what book we will be reading next. Are you ready for the next book? Now, I made a mistake when started filming this video. I don't actually have the physical book on me right now, but that's okay. Got my computer here and I'll be reading the summary this way. So you may have heard this before. It got pretty popular for a little bit, and if you watched Gilmore Girls, you'll definitely know it. The book is Wild, From Lost to Found on the Pacific Crest Trail. This book is by Cheryl Strayed, and I will read a little bit of its summary for you. At 22, Cheryl Strayed thought that she had lost everything in the wake of her mother's death. Her family scattered and her own marriage was soon destroyed. 4 years later, with nothing more to lose, she made the most impulsive decision of her life. With no experience or training, driven only by blind will, she would hike more than 1,000 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail from the Mojave Desert through California and Oregon to Washington State, and she would do it alone. Told with suspense and style, sparkling with warmth and humor, Wild powerfully captures the terrors and pleasures of one young woman forging ahead against all odds on a journey that maddened, strengthened, and ultimately healed her. Now, this is a non-fiction biography memoir style, as you can probably tell. I will not give you any of my expectations about it, but I will say I chose this book because, one, I just finished watching Gilmore Girls, and it was a very wholesome show for me, a very much a comfort series for me. If you know me, I would have never expected myself to watch this show, but in watching it, I question why I waited so long to do so. There's a lot of personal reasons why I enjoyed this, but I will say I have no idea if this book is good. I just know that the show comforted me, and especially during this fall season, I thought that this book, I don't know why, it just felt like it would be good for the fall. It would be a nice sit with your hot cocoa, sit with your hot apple cider, and read it, feel something, and let's talk about it. Maybe you guys wanted something a little bit more animal specific, but I personally wanted to read this myself because I wanted something cozy that would hopefully touch the soul a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see if it does. So that's why I chose this book, and I hope that you enjoy it too. And if you've already read it, well, stay tuned for my review next month and tell me your thoughts there. Now, if you're interested in reading along, feel free. I do have a book club for this in the Fable app. You can click my link in bio or the link in description and join me on there. Every month I will change what the book is, and with each chapter you read, you can leave comments as you go and talk with everybody about your thoughts. I occasionally will leave my thoughts there too. However, I do read these books a month ahead of time, a month ahead of the actual book change, so I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But I'm definitely interested in hearing all of your thoughts. Now, I hope I covered everything. If you have any questions or things that you would like me to do differently in these reviews, feel free to comment and let me know. And I'll see you guys next month.